Tommy Smothers with No Brothers was the last time we talked, Tom.
Well, the last time we talked was in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
That's right. That would have been, what, back in the 70s, I guess?
That was, I can't remember exactly, but it was the early 70s, and the Smothers Brothers hadn't been working for a while, and so we tried to work out. I went out to Georgetown at the place called the Cellar Door to work on some material, and Dickie worked on some songs, and we came together at Lake Geneva to try it all out.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I feel like I'm personally responsible for bringing you guys to town because I was talking to Illinois State University for several years saying, you ought to bring the Smothers Brothers in. Bring them in. They'd be wonderful. And then, of course, they booked you, and then the TV thing came along, and you canceled. Remember?
Yeah, well, the TV thing was real weird because we were CBS, and they asked for one, and I said, that was great. Maybe, thank you very much. And then about, 4 weeks later, they said, hey, we'd like 4 more or 6 more. So we do the 6, and they say, well, thank you very much. And we go out and do our bookings, and boom, television is very important to an act like us. And I hate always canceling things. But anyway, we should have a nice crowd there at Normal.
Yeah, at the Illinois State University's Braden Auditorium, October 4th. That's a Wednesday night, right?
Wednesday night.
And we're looking forward to it.
We'll be with, I will be with Mr. Patrick Paulson, I believe, also.
We've had Pat in the studio. In fact, I've talked with him a number of times. He used to play the Lake Geneva Playboy Club.
Well,
Funny guy.
This will be his last year that he is a comedian.
Is that right?
Yep. He's seriously, at the end of this year, in fact, in January of 1990, all of his energy goes into running for president.
Of course, yes.
Seriously, though.
Oh, really, this time?
I mean it.
This time's for real.
Oh, for real. We've seen the clowns in there, and there's no reason in the world that a person like Pat Paulson is not totally qualified.
I think you're absolutely right. And this is the kind of stuff that got you off the air in the first time.
Well, I hope it gets us off the air the second time, if we can get on.
I got to tell you, I was tuning on the dial, and I think it was CBN or somebody was running an old Jack Benny show.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys were on, and you did a sketch about England being bombed. Do you remember that?
Yes, we did it. We were the bomb defusal squad.
Yeah. Now, that would have been, what, back in the early 60s?
That's mid-60s. That would have been about 64, 63, somewhere in that time, 60, maybe 62, 63.
Yeah.
So we got to work with Jack Benny and George Behrens and, let me see, Jimmy Durante, some of the old classics. When we were hot, really hot back then, in the early 60s, all those guys were still around.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful.
I remember you came out after the show was over, and of course you're all covered with soot. And you remember the line you told Jack?
No.
You said, "This is the dirtiest show I've ever been on."
Little did they know we were going to have a very truncated, short career. We've been doing this for 31 years, the Smothers Brothers.
Wow.
And we're kind of like, in my mind anyway, I look at the work we've done, and it's very similar to the comedy teams of Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Martin and Lewis, Rowan and Martin.
With music.
George.
And you guys are really fine musicians in your own right, aren't you?
Well, we use music kind of like Jack Benny did. I mean, we're a little, I don't know if we're better musicians than Jack was, but we play a lot of concerts with the symphonies now.
Yeah.
And they have 92 pieces set up. And the thing is that Dick, that if people that love comedy, who go to the comedy stores and to show up for all the comedians that work around, we're probably the only ones, the Smothers Brothers, the only one left who are doing classic type of old-fashioned vaudeville-type comedy team stuff.
Yeah. How did that start? Now, you guys took instruments as kids, I suppose, and you were sort of serious about music at first, weren't you?
Well, I was going to be a band leader. That was my first belief. Of course, I'm the dumb one. Of course, I didn't realize that you have to have a higher skill. So, Dick and I were musicians first, and the Kingston Trio were a big influence. Comedically, George Goebel was the person who gave me the opportunity. I said, hey, I can do that. He played guitar, and he didn't tell jokes.
Oh, Lonesome George.
Lonesome George. And the Smothers Brothers aren't joke tellers. We're very seldom are we quoted.
Yeah, well, there again, that's the way comedy has gone. It used to be the guy that would stand up and say, my wife's so big when she sits around the house, she sits around the house. And you got away from that. You guys...
Well, most of the comics still do that. Boy, when I'm in New York, I can't, but when I'm in L.A., geez, the Quaaludes, they do this kind of jokes.
Yeah.
I think in the shakedown of all the young comedians, once they define and stop depending on material and go more for attitude, that's the trick.
Well, I think you're right. And, you know, the funny thing is when you watch somebody else try to do what you guys do, and I don't think anybody's ever tried to copy it, but what comes to mind is the Bud and Lou movie where Harvey Korman and Buddy Hackett tried to do Bud and Lou. And they did the Who's on First thing, and, you know, they're funny comedians in their own right, but they were terrible at it. They couldn't pull off Who's on First like Bud and Lou.
Well, then not one of them was a real comedian, though.
I guess they're actors, right?
Well, yeah. Well, Harvey and who else did it?
Buddy Hackett.
Buddy Hackett's a comedian.
Yeah.
You would think, well, physically it seems like that would work, but it's very individual. It's very hard to steal someone else's material. Dickie is now one of the world's greatest straight men.
Yeah, and that's a real art in itself. It really is, isn't it?
It's probably the most enduring quality which made any of the comedy teams succeed for any length of time was the quality of the straight man, not the quality of the comedian, but how good the straight man was, and that's always been the case.
And that goes back to Benny, too, because Benny never told jokes. He was always the butt of the jokes, and he reacted to what other people were doing, I guess.
He was a straight man.
Yeah.
And anyway, the big thing that happens, we're going to bring into our show on Wednesday, on the 4th of October, is the big thing, the new thing that kind of happened for us. Is
the Yo-Yo Man?
The Yo-Yo Man.
That's great.
It's changed our demographics. It's amazing. The kids love it. The adults love it because they remember the Duncan yo-yos and all the yo-yos. And besides that, it's a philosophy. And the Yo-Yo Man doesn't talk. But Dick my brother's a voice of yo, and describes it kind of like you would a baseball game. He is a play-by-play announcer. When I miss, and I miss a lot of tricks. I'm not that good, but I do have audacity. And Dickie calls me every time. He says, he didn't do it. He's lacking a state of yo.
I went out. I bought a yo-yo after watching your special.
Uh-huh.
And I can make it go down, and then sometimes it doesn't want to stay down. You know what I mean?
No. You mean it comes up too fast?
Comes up too fast. You know, it's supposed to supposed to stay down there and spin until you jerk your finger.
Well, you know what that is? That's string tension.
What am I doing wrong?
Ken, what you do, if you throw the yo-yo down, it doesn't sleep, just drop it down and let it spin to your left. In other words, left is loose and right is tight. So if you let the yo-yo dangle at the end of the string and let it unwind of its natural, spin it to your left, it'll undo it, then roll it up. It's trial and error. Then you try it again, and it should stay down. If it doesn't come back up again, that means you got to spin it to its right. So the rhyme is left is loose, right is tight. And that's the whole skill of yoing, is string tension, like tuning an instrument. And after you get used to that, it'll stay down when you want it to. So that's the trick.
Isn't it possible to get it too tight to the left if it goes around too many times?
If it goes too right, it gets too tight. I mean, to the left, it'll get too loose. Left is loose, right is tight.
Oh.
So it goes to the left too much, it'll get too loose, and when you throw it down, it won't have a chance of coming up at all.
You're good at this. What possessed you to pick up a yo-yo?
I was trying to find the answer to life. And the life was that special place between yes and no is a mystical state of yo. It's a combination between yes and no, which are absolutely, they're so pragmatic.
Yeah.
To be in a state of yo is the mystical place to sing all possibilities. It is great fun, but I tell you, the problem is with your yo-yo, if it comes up and it won't sleep, it's too tight, so you turn to the left. Left is loose.
Got it.
And spin it to the right is tight, and then and then throwing it straight, it's like a golf shot.
You know, you really are a different character when you're doing the state of yo. I think you really are. Where did you come up with this two things where you point the finger at Dickie when you say, yeah, I can do it, you know?
Oh, that's the yo statement? That just happened through... well, I'll tell you the truth is, I was out there doing the yo-yo tricks on stage, and Dickie asked me a question, and I didn't have a mic. I was not on mic, so I threw a thing. Maybe I saw Sonny Bono do it once. He used to do a share.
Yeah.
I got you, babe. Well, I made a big deal to point at him to let him know I understood the question.
Well, that's like a punchline, because we watched it as a whole group one night. We were watching one of the first shows, and you did that, and the whole room burst out in laughter. It's just...
Well, that's the yo. We're working right now on how to be inarticulate. Verbally say no instead of be a positive. I haven't worked out that physical move yet.
Yeah, but it's great bit.
Well, Paulson and Jim Stafford, and there's a bunch of people we've been working with on the road and on our television shows, and we thought we put out one of the best variety shows in an era.
I tell you, it is.
People don't care about variety shows, it seems like.
You had a guy down with the hula hoops, and I thought, my God, this guy doesn't do one, he does 100 of them. And I'm trying to, the Magicians, it is. It's one of the best variety shows that come down the pike in years.
We always had 8 or 9 acts, and they were always the best at what they did. And there should be a place on primetime television for free, not cable, but a free show.
Yeah.
We just have to listen to commercials. But we believe in variety, although we're looking forward to doing a film on the story of Donald Duncan, who was an interesting man.
And that's not made up. That's a real guy, Donald Duncan.
Donald Duncan, Duncan Yo-Yos. Yes, he
sounds like a Disney character.
In 1967 to about 1968, 75 to 80% of all the parking meters in America were Duncan. And if you walk by look at parking meters and look down and see a little sign there still might be a lot of them called Duncan. And that was after he did the yo-yo bit. And he also was a man who patented and invented ice cream on a stick, which is a good humor man.
I'll be heard.
And before that, he had a patent on the four-wheel hydraulic brakes, which nobody wanted.
I want to say that Duncan Yo-Yos are made in Wisconsin someplace, but I may be wrong.
Luck, Wisconsin. That was their home.
Which one?
Luck, L-U-C-K. They had a major milling factory there and a machinery, and they had the good hardwood, the maple, Eastern Hard Rock maple, and they made their yo-yos right up in Luck, Wisconsin, until I guess about 1965.
Time's going by very quickly, but you use a specialized yo-yo, I take it, with a nice metal axle in the center.
No, I always use a wood axle.
Really?
Wood and cotton are still the best friction. And you have to change them occasionally, just like the space shuttle coming in with the tiles on. They burn off. But that's it. And we have a Smothers Brothers Kodak instructional video, which is the Yo-Yo Man instructional video, which is about half an hour, and it's about $8-10, and it comes with the yo-yo. It tells you about stringing it, and how to yo safety, and how to become a master yoist.
And these will be on sale, I assume, in the lobby.
I hope so. It also, well, you know, when you're on the road, we're vaudevillians. We work 10 months a year, and hope we can get a regular television show so we can go out and tour. The Smothers Brothers can tour about 3 or 4 months a year, because that's our bread and butter, and that's what we love to do the most.
You're still doing the winery thing?
Yep, still got Smothers wine, but it's down. It's only sold in California, and it's just a lifestyle, and it's kind of like show business.
Yeah.
Wine is very subjective, just like a person's song or their comedy. And Dick and I are right now feeling like we're having one of our best years. 88 and 1989 and 1990, I think it would be very good for the Smothers Brothers.
Well, you make people feel good, too, so I think you deserve it. And we'll look forward to seeing you.
Well, thank you, Ken. And if you come see the show, if you see the show, please make a point to come backstage, say hello. Huh?
All right, we'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Tommy Smothers in concert at ISU along with his brother, Dick, and Pat Paulson, October 4th at Braden Auditorium. I think there are still some tickets available, so make sure you snap those up before they get away.